Canelo Alvarez has made his decision. 2, possibly 3-fight deal with the zone. We break down what that means for the divisions involved, what it means for the fighters involved. This is your boy JG. This is a Punch Report. Let's go. Like I said before, welcome back to the channel, y'all. This is your boy JG. Welcome to the Punch Report. If you could be so kind, like, subscribe, bell icon for notification. Let's get right into it. So, as many of us know already, news broke yesterday that Canelo Alvarez has made his decision. Was he going to fight David Benavidez, Jamar Charlo, 2-fight deal, PBC, worth over $100 million? Or was he going to go on the side of the DAZN deal as they try to implement pay-per-view and fight Dmirty Bivol, and then Triple G, possibly a 3rd fight later in December, possibly early 2023. Those fights totaling nearly $160 million. Now, my first question is this. Actually, let me make a statement, then I'll present my question. If you look around, let's say boxing Twitter, blogs, vlogs, YouTube, whatever the case may be, you see a couple schools of thought. The first thing is this. Some individuals are up in arms about Canelo making the decision that he made to fight Dmirty Bivol, a relatively unknown fighter, undefeated fighter, and then fight Triple G, who will be 40 by the time that fight takes place, versus Hungry Lion, young up-and-comer Jamar Charlo, and then, you know, fierce puncher, combination puncher, huge for the division at 168 pounds, and David Benavidez. And, you know, there's conversation about, oh, why, and this and that, and he's ducking, and, you know, everyone's weighed in at this point. De La Hoya, Mayweather, all these guys have weighed in and expressed what they feel like what Canelo should do. De La Hoya came out and said that, you know, if I'm in a position to give Canelo advice, I'm going to tell him, you know, you got to fight these guys over at the PBC side. You got to fight a David Benavidez. You got to fight a Jamar Charlo. This has to happen. These are the fights that make legacy. Floyd Mayweather came out and flatly said that, you know, Canelo can do what he wants to do. He's worked his way up and put himself in a position to make the moves that he wants to make. But in my opinion, that being Mayweather's opinion, I feel like Canelo Alvarez is ducking David Benavidez. With all of that stuff being said, we as fans, now here's my question. We as fans, I have a question for you guys. Why do we still get upset or question why Canelo does what he does? I'm gonna pause for effect.
Stop it. Get some help.
Because I want to provide an opportunity for individuals to actually ponder that. Why do we give a damn? Here's the thing. Canelo Alvarez has fought 57 times in his professional career, I believe. He's lost once. That was a Mayweather. He's had some other questionable situations in there. In my opinion, most notably the Edeslani Lara fight. Canelo Alvarez, at this point of his career, he's making decisions that say, okay, I could make $100 million+ over here, or I can make $160 million over here and fight easier fights. That's the decision that he's making, and I'm not mad at it. Why would I be mad at it? Well, right now he's undisputed at 168 pounds. He's won belts at 54, 60, 68, 75, even though that was, you know, Kovalev was a little bit over the hill, but he's done all of this in the sport of boxing, all this notoriety, all this money. Why are we still getting upset by a guy whose pattern of behavior tells you what he's going to do at every turn? If you don't want to watch that shit, don't watch it, don't buy it. But I don't understand all the uproar in the sport of boxing coming from a person where you know exactly what he's going to do. Now, here's what I would also say. If you're in the position of a Canelo Alvarez, he and his team are being very deliberate. Eddie Reynoso, Eddie Hearn, himself, whoever else is, you know, whispering in his ear. Look, get this cake, get these easy fights, get these relatively unknowns. It doesn't matter how well we do as a promotional company. We might not get a return on our investment, but you'll get paid, and it's cake. Let's do this. Now, what this video is not about is being critical of Canelo Alvarez and his opponent choices from the perspective of fighters, because I already know when people watch this video, they're going to say shit like, oh, you know, fuck Charlos and who they fight. Who cares who they fought? At some point in time, the young guy coming up has to fight the dude that's at the top of the mountain. That has to happen. You simply saying who did they fight doesn't mean much of anything, because if you go down the resume of lists of individuals that really anyone has fought, you can ask that same stupid ass question, who have they fought? For Canelo Alvarez especially, you think about, Billy Joe Saunders. Who did Billy Joe Saunders fight at 168 pounds? He fought an Argentinian dude, I believe, who was 28-0, who had never fought outside of his country, who he lost essentially every single round to, and I think ended up stopping him in the 11th in desperation. And if you go back and watch that fight, in the corner of the Argentinian cat, whose name I can't remember right now, his cornermen, they're kissing him because they can't believe they've done this. They've upset Billy Joe Saunders. They're excited, they're elated, they're celebrating, and it's just a tremendous moment for he and his team. And then he gets stopped. He fought David Lemieux, Billy Joe Saunders, but that was at 160 pounds. So what you ask the question, who has Billy Joe Saunders fought to get the Canelo fight? And if you go back and look at the post-fight press conference, or excuse me, the in-ring interview for Billy Joe Saunders, he says out loud, hey, Canelo, guess what? I shit the bed. I didn't look that good in this fight. You know, hopefully you can still consider fighting me. And, you know, Canelo was looking at the, hell yeah, you look terrible. I'll fight you and whoop your ass and break your face all up and make you quit the sport of boxing. Straight like that. So, and that's just one example. I just use Billy Joe Saunders as one example. When it comes to Canelo Alvarez, for the individual who wants to say, well, who did they fight? I would encourage you to abandon that argument as quickly as possible, because that argument gets picked apart viciously up and down Canelo's resume. Abney Yildirim, coming off a knockout loss, hasn't fought since 2019, and I don't want to hear anything about mandatories. So many ways around a mandatory. Step aside money. If you're talking about the WBC, they'll just elevate you to the franchise, and then you don't have to fight a mandatory. And quite honestly, they only made the amendment to where you could possibly win a franchise belt for the Lopez-Lomachenko fight. But before then, you could knock Canelo out in the first round, and he would still be the franchise champion. That's shout out to Mauricio Sulaiman. They just do whatever the hell they want to do over there. But I'm kind of digressing a little bit. So I just want to stay away from individuals thinking that this video is about, well, who did they fight and did they deserve it? I think at this point, individuals like David Benavidez and Jermell Charlo definitely deserve the fight. The professional fighters, champions. David Benavidez is already at the weight, 168 pounds, where Canelo Alvarez is undisputed. He has all the belts. Benavidez has never lost. He only lost his belt to poor decision making, and on the scale, I believe Jermell Charlo would have to come up, but he's a champion at his division. Those aren't bad fights, and they're bigger fights, but they're harder fights. Canelo made a business decision. We like throwing that around. You know, you see a Teddy Bridgewater flop on a tackle in a football game. You know, he made it after throwing a pick. He made a business decision. Canelo Alvarez is doing the same thing. He's making a business decision. 160 million to fight 3 cats that no one really knows, except for Triple G, who hasn't fought in a year, who's gonna go fight Ryota Murata, who a lot of cats don't know already. That fight got postponed because of the vids. I believe that's April and March. And then possibly someone else on the UK circuit. Canelo's been doing this. The only fight at this point where I wouldn't be, actually I'm not being critical at all, but I appreciated the Caleb Plant fight, and I appreciated the Daniel Jacobs fight for Canelo Alvarez. Great fight. Thought those fights should have happened. Obviously, the Caleb Plant fight was for undisputed. So of course that fight was a necessary fight to happen. But for the individuals who are being super critical of Canelo, this is what he's been doing. At this point, I don't even understand why covering the Canelo sweepstakes like this is even necessary. But here's what I would say. It's a good thing that this decision is out, this information's out now, because for everyone between 160 to 175 pounds can go about doing their business. That's the only thing I'll be critical of when it comes to Canelo. When you're doing these negotiations, I'm negotiating with DAZN. I got PBC over here. I might do this independent deal or whatever. I don't want to do multi-fight deals. People who want to get the Canelo sweepstakes because it is a big-ass payday. There's no denying that. You fight Canelo, you getting paid, hand over fist. It stops everything. It stagnates the sport. So I think that's where I would be the most critical. You're holding up the sport of boxing, making these weird decisions. The other thing I would say is this. You're undisputed at 168 pounds. You're already in that division. You have all the belts. Now you're going up to 175 to fight Dmirty Bivol. Shout out to Bivol. And it's kind of a head scratcher. So if you win, do you vacate? You go back, you're just gonna keep going up and down the ladder. I don't know, but it's just kind of a strange move to me. But as far as being overtly critical of Canelo Alvarez for making a business decision to fight easier fights and make comparable money to what he would have gotten at PBC when he knows he's gonna have to go through it to get it, I'm not mad at that. That's a business decision. As far as this video is concerned, what I'm not trying to check for is who did they fight? They don't deserve it. They're not elite. You don't even know shit about Dmirty Bivol. I think he's fought 4 or 5 times in America. He has a semi-decent resume with guys you may know: Sullivan Barrera, Joe Smith Jr., my man Jean Pascal, the Juice Monster, and he fought the Russian cat Salamov last, which was a UD. It wasn't a super exciting fight. I wouldn't say that Dmirty Bivol looked bad, but what I would say is that he fought hyper technical and he really just shut down the offense of Salamov and just, you know, cruise to a decision. I think he has 6 decisions in a row, UDs. But I am going to break down the Canelo Alvarez Dmirty Bivol fight because I think it's a good fight. It's a solid fight. It's not the best fight. It's not the toughest fight. It's not the most interesting fight, and it's not the most popular fight. But it's still a good fight, solid fight. But I wanted to get my thoughts on that. You know, Canelo Alvarez making his decision, potentially making somewhere between $120, $160 million, going with the 2-fight deal, Dmirty Bivol, then Triple G if he gets past Rayo Murata, leaving David Benavidez, Jermell Charlo on the table for PBC. That's another video in and of itself. There's fights over there at 160, 168 pounds that they can make in-house of your PBC. That shit'll be dope, and it will do well in America, and it'll sell crazy. But that's my thoughts on that, guys. Do me a favor, drop your comments below in this video. Like, subscribe, bell icon for notification. So much more work coming. This is your boy JG. This has been the Punch Report. We out.